Okay. All right, we're live. So I'm gonna let these amazing women get to their discussion, but I just wanted to give a little intro. This is one of our virtual events for the Cinema Femme Short Film Festival. We're featuring shorts from all over the world by female filmmakers, and it's really exciting. And this is the kind of virtual event that it's just exciting to hear your stories, filmmakers that are so admired. So I want to thank you for being here, and thank you to Chaz Ebert for moderating. So I'll leave you guys and have fun.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. First of all, congratulations to Rebecca on her inaugural Cinema Femme Shorts Film Festival. This is the first one, and I hope that she has many more after this. I hope that next year it's live and we'll be able to see each other in person. We're fortunate to be able to do it remotely, to do it at all. So to do it remotely, this is so exciting to have all of you filmmakers here. And I have to tell you right at the beginning that watching your films again made me so emotional. I'm so proud of the cinematic and artistic achievements, but also the fact that I like films that make me feel something, and your films really did. They, Christine's films, the Clark sisters took me to church. Every time I heard the singing, I just started bawling, and it just reminded me of so many things. Sandrel Nicole, your film, especially Training Wheels, there's something so beautiful about the act of when the father goes back to retrieve the bicycle for his daughter. It just makes me want to cry all over again. And there's something about your film that I want to see. I want to see that little boy and that little girl grow up to be fellow psychics, and I want to see what happens. There's a whole world there that we can do, and you already set the path for it. And I'm hoping that we can get you, the resources and the support to make that film. There's something I want to say about each one of your films, but before I do that, I want to introduce you, and I'm going to start with Christine Swanson. She's a Detroit native. She's a visionary storyteller and multiple award-winning filmmaker. She earned an MFA in film from the New York University's Tisch School of the Arts. She's been identified as one of the most promising filmmakers to emerge from NYU's graduate film program since Martin Scorsese, Ang Lee, Oliver Stone, and Spike Lee. You've seen Christine's films on Lifetime, and you have seen the Clark sisters. And if you haven't, you must go out and see it immediately. Our next in our panel, well, as I say it, just say hello, because I like your voice. That's what the audience came in. They want to hear your voice. So just hear something, because I believe so much in vibrations. And so I want you to say your name and then something else.
Hi, I'm Christine Swanson. I'm happy to be here on a panel with other female filmmakers that are exciting for me now, where there's not just one or two or three, there's multiple talented storytellers. So happy to be here.
Thank you, Christine. The next panelist is Ashley O'Shea. She was a DP and documentarian. She's based in Chicago, Illinois. Her work focuses on illuminating marginalized voices, and she's produced work for national brands, including Lifetime, Ford Motor Company, Boost Mobile, and Doc Martens. Most recently, she filmed the final episode, Tough as You series. Let me see. Her work also appeared in the critically acclaimed Lifetime docuseries Surviving R. Kelly. Her film, Unapologetic, is unapologetic about the female voice speaking out for wrongs, for Rakia Boyd and Sandra Bland and the women who have been killed and who haven't, who in some cases their murder has not been. Give me the word, Ashley. Ashley.
They've not been held accountable. Yes, they reconciled. Yeah,
that's right. So Ashley, I want you to say your name and a sentence because, like I say, I believe in the vibration of your name. I believe in the sound of your voice.
For sure. Hi, everyone. As Chaz said, my name is Ashley O'Shea, and I am based in Chicago. And yeah, I'm just excited to be here with these other illuminating voices and look forward to the conversation ahead.
Okay, great. So the next person on our panel is Channing Godfrey Peoples. She's a writer-director. She's also an MFA graduate of the USC School of Cinematic Arts and one of Filmmaker magazine's 25 New Faces of Independent Film. For 2018, her films are character-driven stories focusing on the resilience of the human spirit. And she's here with Miss Juneteenth. Channing, tell us again, I want to hear your name and something a little bit from you.
Hi, Chaz. I have to say first, it is such an honor to be here with you, and you're someone I've admired for so many years. So I want to thank you, especially for having me. It is such a wonderful thing to be here with these women that are telling stories that I personally love and have admired. And I'm just excited to see so many of us telling our stories. And that's part of the reason I started in the first place. So I'm truly honored to be here with you all. And I thank you all for doing the work.
Great, thank you. You know, one of the things that I really, in watching your film, marvel at, because I grew up in a big city, I marvel when someone is able to take me into a small town and give me what feels like an authentic experience there. And the characters, just everything, even from like when, watching some at a sort of a dance or drill, or seeing the guys working on cars, doing so many things. It just felt so real. And I hope that you tell us how you achieve that when we come back to you.
Thank you so much.
Right. Our next person panelist is Miss Numa Perrier. And she was born in Haiti and raised in small town USA. She's emerged as an exciting voice in the film and TV landscape. Her early works include starring in and writing the hit web series, The Couple, which scored a deal at HBO. And she co-founded the pioneering streaming platform, Black and Sexy TV, serving as a creative director and showrunner. There's so many things about each of these panelists that I won't be able to tell you. So Rebecca Martin is going to make sure that the full bios of each of our panelists will be available on screen. And you can also go to rogerebert.com at my website and go to each one of their websites and we'll see them too. Okay, Numa, as I was saying about your film, I met Tiffany Tennille. Your film got nominated for an Independent Spirit Award. And I met Tiffany at the Independent Spirit Awards. She had such a freshness, a vitality, a radiance. Mm-hmm. And I said, we're going to see a lot more of her. Absolutely. I hope so. And so I hope that you're going to either make another film with her or that someone on our panel will, because I think that that's great. Great. No, you have to say your name.
Hello, everybody. I'm Numa Perrier. A big fan of everyone's work here. Big fan of yours, Chaz. Thank you for having me. Just, this is pretty awesome.
Thank you. And last but not least, Miss Nicole. She's a director and writer, also known in the, she's also a writer, director, producer from Chicago, Illinois. I'm so pleased for everybody, but I have to give a special shout out to my Chicago girls. Her films have been screened in prominent film festivals in the country and broadcast nationally for programs including Aspire TV's African American Short Film Showcase. She's had several films debut at the Gene Siskel Film Center's Black Harvest Film Festival, where I think I first met her, including her very first short film entitled Loose Change. So, your film Training Wheels caught the attention of comedian and executive producer Lil Rel Howery. And I love Lil Rel. I went to high school with his aunt. His whole family was really funny.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so will you say your name and tell us something?
Hi, I'm Sandrel Nicole. I'm here in Chicago. I am so grateful to be a part of this and welcome with so many beautiful Black women that are in the business, trailblazing. So I am over the moon just to be a part of the company, and I admire you guys so much. So thank you for having me.
So my first question is, all of your films are so different, but I want to know what drew you to the particular films that we would be talking about. For Christine, it would be the Clark sisters. For Sandrel Nicole, it's both Training Wheels and Side Effects. For Numa, it's Jezebel. For Channing, it's, my mind is going blank, Channing.
Miss Juneteenth.
Of course, Miss Juneteenth. And then for Ashley, it's Unapologetic. So I'm usually pretty good at this, but I'm just so excited. So
There's a lot.
like 1,000 miles a minute. So let's start with Christine. And the first question for all of you, and then I'll tell you which order we'll go in. Christine, what drew you to make the Clark sisters, and tell us why you became a director?
Okay. The Clark sisters movie was happening independent of myself, and I was hired to direct it. But I lobbied really hard to get the job because I am from Detroit, and the Clark sisters are Detroit legends, and I just felt it was my responsibility, if I got the job, to make sure that their legacy was intact. That was my only goal. I had no ambitions for myself. I just thought, Lord, if you could just help me make sure that we make the Clark sisters look good, then that I will be satisfied. So that I was just really compelled, because they are Black women, like the Black women who raised me. And it's just a color of Blackness that we don't get to see like every day. Like the church folks who are, geniuses in their gifting, and who happened to be like homegrown from Detroit, and they never left. So they didn't go on like Diana Ross and Motown. They stayed home and still remain like pillars of the community. So I just felt that if I could lend my talents in a way to make them shine, then that would be great. And I became a director for that specific reason, to highlight and spotlight us in ways that I see us, and in ways that bring joy to our community.
Before we move on to someone else, I have two specific questions to ask. One about the Clark sisters. How that singing is phenomenal in the movie. And like I said, it moved me so much that even talking about it makes me feel like I want to cry. How did you get those beautiful voices? And did you cast for the singing, or how? Tell us about that process.
just because I knew it was the Clark sisters and they're known for their amazing vocals, I just thought that maybe we should do something different than a typical biopic that would hire actors to lip sync. So I pushed to hire real singers who came from the gospel tradition. So they're really singing. And when I shot them singing, I made them sing live. So there are a lot of elements that come into play that you typically don't see and feel in a normal biopic. And I think that's why maybe the music felt different, because it was live.
Oh my God, it's so beautiful. It really is so beautiful. I see one thing here. Oh,
my husband
okay.
is outside of Chicago, guys. So I feel
Great.
very connected to my.
Oh, I know the second question that I have to ask is about another film that I think it was either a short that you made and maybe you're going to make it longer, I'm not sure. Black Korea. Tell us about that film.
Short film that's loosely based on my life and the life of the producer. We're Blasian. I'm half Korean, half Black, and we kind of have a quasi immigrant story. So I made that into a short film about, Korean folks breaking into Blackness by no decision of their own. We're just both dropped in the inner cities, and we kind of had to fend for ourselves. So that was what that short film was.
And do you have any plans to make that into a full?
I have a whole feature version of it as well. So
yeah. Great, because I'd like to see some more of that. Yeah. Let's go to Sandrel Nicole and talk about your film and how you became a director.
So Training Wheels is inspired by my own relationship with my father. I wanted to give a light approach to some of the things that we've dealt with in my family, and I wanted to tell the story through a little girl's eyes. So I shot here, filmed 2 days, had 2 little stars that were my front runners in the film, and I worked with just some amazing people here in Chicago that was excited about the story, didn't mind jumping on it, and we all worked together and created a great project. I'm glad that you enjoyed it.
I love those child actors. And like I say, I would like to see a film about them as they're growing up, and maybe let me just calm down, because I could, have some stories about those kids, but you'd have to shoot it, because I like the sensibility that you brought both to Training Wheels and to Side Effects. Tell us a little bit about Side Effects.
Side Effects is a short I did about a woman that's caught in an entanglement with 2 men and trying to decide whether or not she should move on with a new guy or stay with the current guy that she's with and make it work. And oftentimes in love, we get caught in little triangles. So that's just one experience that she's having. Also shot in Chicago. So yeah, Chicago films are awesome.
And tell us, what was your path to becoming a filmmaker?
After high school, I kind of gotten very acclimated with just gadgets. I was a tech girl. And then I finally told my mother that I wanted to go to film school. So she was like, well, I don't care where you go as long as you get a degree. So I went to Columbia College Chicago. I got just a regular degree in film and video because I did study a lot of post-production there as well. But I didn't really start to tell my own stories until I graduated and was completely done with college. I knew I wanted to film, but I knew I wanted to create a certain type of content. So I had to learn how to develop my own voice. So I started to read a lot of books on screenwriting and just started to try my hand at it. And I had some great mentors to whip me into shape when I was going off course. So that's how I got acclimated in it. And I'm just inspired to create stories that we can see ourselves in as Black women. And we can also be celebrated in whatever, triumphs that we have in our lives, that we can tell our own stories and have our own perspective.
Okay, let's, speaking of Chicago, I want to hear, Ashley, about how you decided to come up with your story and because it's a very impactful one, and your path to becoming a filmmaker.
Yeah, so I guess a little bit about my film, since it's not in the universe yet. It is a deep look into the movement for Black lives in Chicago through the experiences of 2 young Black queer women. And so we are on the precipice of premiering in like less than 2 weeks at the Black Festival online.
Wait, well, I didn't hear. Where are you premiering?
At Black Star, at the Black Star Film Festival.
Oh, okay.
August 20th, 7:30 ET, shameless plug. But yeah, so the film is both like a look into the movement over the course of 3 to 4 years within Chicago around different campaigns regarding police killings in the city. But it also follows these 2 young Black women as they're coming of age within the movement for Black lives. And I sort of came to the story because, you know, I was a young Black woman, recently graduated from film school, around the same time that they were starting to organize around the police killing of a young Black woman named Rekia Boyd. And I noticed at the time the ways in which they were centering women's voices, queer voices, just folks that aren't historically included in the narrative around Black justice and civil rights in this country. And I just felt like there wasn't a comprehensive media piece about young Black women in this work. I knew these people. I could relate to them in a lot of ways, but I just felt it was important to go beyond the media cycle and the sensational kind of depictions we see of activists and organizing to show the multiple dimensions of these 2 leaders within the movement.
You know, in watching Janae and Bella in the movie, well, Bella is the
she's the fire.
She's a spitfire, and she also what is the word that I'm trying to like a slam.
Oh yeah, she's a poet. Yeah, spoken word artist.
Oh, just poet. Okay, I'll use the word poet, but I usually when it's poet and everything. But anyway, a poet, and the things that she said about putting a spotlight on women activists took me back to the 60s.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much going on today in the social and civil rights and human rights movement that really mirrors things that were happening back in the late 60s and in the 70s. I remember being a student activist at my university, and I remember I was running for the head of the Black Student Union, and one of the guys told me, "Sister, you need to step aside because, you know, the man should be the leader." And I said, no. I was all for it. I said, I would support you. I support everything, our movement. We got to move together. We're in the movement together. And so I said, you know what? We'll leave it up to the vote. Let the people vote. And I forget whether we were voted as co-leaders or whether one was the leader for 6 months and one was the leader another. And it happened again when I went to law school.
Yeah.
And I was running for the president of the Black American Law Student Association. And the person running against me was a Black man. And he said, you know, Chaz, it would be great. You make a great leader, but the organization should be led by a man. And I said, you know what? Let's leave it up to the election. Let's let the people decide. And they all voted me as president, and he came. And he was very gracious about it. But your movie just took me back to that time.
And that's partially the inspiration behind it too. You know, there have always been Black women at the helm of these movements from the 60s and beyond. You know, Ella Baker and Fannie Lou Hamer and folks that have always had the boots on the ground but haven't always received the recognition. And, you know, being in Chicago in late 2015, not only around Rekia Boyd, but the Laquan McDonald tape coming out, you know, that I knew that it was an important moment to document. And as a documentarian, I feel that it's really important to document our lives and our movements, regardless if, they'll have actual implications on what's happening. I think, we have to start telling histories beyond, the MLKs and the Malcolm X's and the Fred Hamptons and like everything that's continually coming out, which is beautiful. But there's a whole coalition of folks that are constantly doing this work that are bolstering up those leaders that we always see.
Absolutely. Let's go to Channing and talk about Miss Juneteenth. As I said, I just love what you were able to show in creating this whole background and story and support. When I watch a movie and it's really working for me, that's one of the elements, the authenticity of it, but also believing that these characters came from the environment that you put them in, and that the way that they move and behave and talk and everything is takes you to that place. And really, Sandrel, tell us about your movie and your path to becoming a filmmaker.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because Miss Juneteenth, and when you talk about authenticity and say that it felt authentic to you, that's the highest compliment that you could pay me, because it really was conceived around the places and spaces that I grew up around. And so, I felt like I had a duty to portray this community as authentically as possible and with as much love and respect as I could, because, those were my people. So it was just super important. And I really, when you talk about how you conceive of our stories, for me, I always wanted to tell stories about Black women, on their journeys, on the journeys of their lives, and really stories about them taking a step forward in their journeys. And I was trying to think of what I wanted my first feature to be. And Juneteenth for me was always such a big part of my life. It was, I'm from Texas. So it's just, something that you did every year as a kid. I looked forward to Juneteenth, like the parades and blues music and dance. For me, that was, it was more about the pomp and circumstance. And I don't think I understood it as specifically until I became an adult, that it was really about the commemoration of our ancestors who, unfortunately, in Texas, didn't find out they were free until 2.5 years, after everyone else. So
I have to stop you there, because that still, to this day, blows my mind. Growing up in Chicago, we really didn't hear about Juneteenth until later years. And some people say, well, I did know about it. And I knew a lot about history and about, African history as well as African-American history. But to me, to think that someone could be free for 2 years and not even know about it still just is something I can't wrap my head around.
Yeah, and I really, Chaz, honestly didn't realize that people really didn't know about it until I left Texas. I attended graduate school in California. I'd go around every year and say, Happy Juneteenth, and people would kind of look at me curiously, and I was like, wow, people really don't know about Juneteenth. And it was such a big part of my life, especially Miss Juneteenth, because for me, it was formative in a way, because I had a pageant that was happening, I say that, but that was happening in real time. Like I got to go every year and see all these young Black women on stage, right? And for a young Black woman, that was affirming for me, because they, carried themselves with a sense of confidence, and, they had a hope. And it inspired me to be hopeful about my future. So it's just something that was special to me. And I wanted to find a way to marry it to my mission, which is to get more Black women leads, in front of the camera. And so I ended up writing this story about this Black woman who has this dream deferred, that ultimately knows that she just wants something for herself, even though she might not quite know what it is in the moment, but she's also trying to navigate that with her own hopes and dreams for her child, and, her hopes and dreams for her child to have a better life.
Thank you. And Numa, Miss Perrier, tell us about, Jezebel, you told a story that happens in Las Vegas that I've never seen before, from the point of view of Black women who live there. And one thing that I noticed about your film that I thought was so powerful is the males in the story. They're not extraneous. They're very important to the story. But the relationship between the sisters in the story was just so strong, and something, and in a way that I hadn't seen. Even though I would think, would the older sister want the younger sister to move into this space? I don't know, but the way you tell it and the way it flows makes sense. So tell us about your film and about your path to becoming a filmmaker.
Yes, well, thank you. The sisterhood part is definitely the heart of the story for me. And Jezebel is my true story. It's based on my life. And I always knew that one day it would make a provocative film, but didn't know how I would get it done. Didn't even consider myself a director at the time. But although I always knew that it would be a provocative film, the sister relationship was the centerpiece always for me. And in every conversation, everyone knew that down the line, behind and in front of the camera, that was the focus. Just because I care so much about that relationship with my sister. We went through a period of being estranged and then reunited and then made this movie together. With her supporting me and trusting me all along the way. So yeah, I just came around to filmmaking because I've been a writer and an actress and really a little director too since I was a child, but I wouldn't have called myself that. Not a director, definitely a writer and actor, but I was directing my brothers and sisters and family plays and stuff, and just I didn't have any role model to say, oh, that you're a director, but I figured that out along the way.
And so you have to claim it. You have to claim
it, and then, and see it, and I definitely, that was not anything that I had seen, not only a representation of a woman or a Black woman directing, but just even how directing works, and that it's how a movie is even made was not, I had no representation for that either. So my path was just from instinct and having fun and trying to escape boredom and escape misery as well in my childhood, that just I figured out along the way, oh, that's what a director does. They have a vision for something, and they figure out how all the pieces fit, and then they lead that vision in collaboration with other artists. And yeah, that's how I got here, and I'm glad for it.
Great. I'm curious from each of you, who has been an influence on you, either in filmmaking, someone who either inspired you to become a filmmaker or someone whose films you really like. And we've been around the board. Let's go to Christine.
Well, coming from Detroit, I actually went to the University of Notre Dame right there in South Bend, Indiana. And in my freshman year of college, I was majoring in finance and Japanese. And I did finance because I thought that's a major where you probably could get a job. So Spike Lee came to campus my freshman year in college, talk about do the right thing. And I was like, oh my goodness, people make movies for a living? I had no idea that was a viable career track until I met Spike Lee in person. Wow. I'd seen his movie, but it's until I saw him in person that I thought, well, maybe this is something that I could do for myself. And my husband and I, Michael, we both changed our majors. He was a year ahead of me, and because of Spike Lee.
What was his major before?
Like political science. So we both changed our major to filmmaking. And I decided in my freshman year, like I did research on Spike Lee, and I'm like, okay, if you go to NYU Film School, that's how you can become a filmmaker. And it was as simplistic as that. And that's how I ended up at NYU. And Spike ended up being my directing teacher my last year. It was a full circle moment. And if not for that encounter with him, I would be stuck on Wall Street being miserable or something like that.
Miserable with a lot of money, probably. But anyway, no, I'm just joking. Sandrel, who was your influence or someone you admire as a filmmaker?
I love Spike as well, but to keep it on a female note, I really love Casey Lemons.
Ah, yes.
I am a big fan of Eve's Bayou. I've been a fan of that film for years, and the stillness and some of the performances in that film. It's if I had a top 10, it's definitely up there. So I would say her for sure, and I love Dee Reese as well.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I watched her first film, Pariah, and it was an incredible film, city film, and I love city films, and it's just some really great performances in that film. So those are two female filmmakers that I absolutely love, and I admire them.
Thank you. I was going to go to Ashley, but I think she had to leave for a second. She'll be back. Let's go to Channing.
Hey, these are some great choices already. I think Julie Dash was a huge influence for me, who, of course, did Daughters of the Dust.
I love Daughters of the Dust. Yeah.
Yeah. I love Gina Prince Bythewood, pretty much anything. I really loved Beyond the Lights. This is, and I have such a long list of female filmmakers who are impactful, but I also have to mention Charles Burnett, who's a huge influence for me. Yes. Killer of Sheep was so inspirational for me. So,
thank you. And Ashley, were you able to hear while you were away? Okay. So the question.
I'm sorry. I'm getting my couch. My new couch is getting delivered literally right at this moment. So, but it's all good.
Life's realities. We still have to make sure that we do things like the furniture deliverer come in.
They had all day.
So we understand.
All day, and I was like, they waited till.
And did you?
But yes, I heard the question.
And do you have your sofa now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So I think I actually really admire a documentary filmmaker by the name of Nadia Hallgren. She just directed the Michelle Obama documentary, and I've had the pleasure of getting to know her as a mentor over the past few years. She's also, like me, kind of like a director DP hybrid, and so she also she directed that film Trouble the Water, and just a handful of other amazing documentaries that are very. My film is in the style of cinema verite, so like life as it is. And so, it's one thing to see that take from, a white male director or someone I don't identify with, but I think there's just such a difference in care when it's being done by a Black woman. So she's definitely been one of my influences on my documentary journey.
Great. And Numa?
Hi. I've been really influenced and inspired by a lot of women filmmakers in the visual arts space, like Carrie Mae Weems and Nicolene Thomas.
Oh yes.
I would love to see them come out with a feature film as well. But I look to their work for inspiration a lot, and I'm really excited about all of us as peers. So many wins happening with kind of this generation of the Black woman filmmaker, like Nia DaCosta and Tyresha Poe and Janixa Bravo and everybody here. Yeah. So kind of a mix of those.
Ava DuVernay and Oprah are putting together. They gave so many opportunities to women filmmakers to work on TV shows and also movies, and they're doing that at that space out in Los Angeles. And keep thinking, before the pandemic, there were some women who came to me here in Chicago, and we were offered a space at, a studio to do some things. And maybe afterwards, I would just love to see, everything doesn't have to be centered in one space. It can be different places, but I would love to see some more productions taking place in other cities, and just seeing a space where women can go and create. So, and I was thinking, when Ashley said that she was also a DP, does anyone else do any of your DP work?
I have a little bit. It's not, I wouldn't call myself a cinematographer, but I have shot some of my earlier work.
And same here. I shot some of my shots and training wheels. I shot myself. So I'm not a cinematographer.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And what about writing? Who likes to write the what you're going to direct? Because I know, for instance, Ama Asante loves to, she's directed things that she hasn't written, but she loves to write and direct. I think that Casey, she likes to also write and her own. I mean, she's written, of course, directed things by other people, but she likes to write. Who likes to write the work that they direct?
I do.
I don't know if I like to write, but I've written pretty much all of my films. So
I'm going to start this time with you, Numa. What have been the obstacles that you found on your path to either being a filmmaker or now moving forward? What's, like one of the biggest obstacles?
Well, I think it kind of goes back to what you said about claiming it. I would say that was more of an early obstacle for me. It's like I was doing so many things that were absolutely directing and not fully calling myself that, not fully stepping into it for a pocket of time. That pocket of time has definitely passed. I think that, swimming with uncertainty and swimming with doubt about who you are and what you're capable of is sometimes can be your biggest obstacle. And I think for me, it slowed me down in certain ways, even if it seemed like I was really busy. But yeah, that's definitely changed and not recently either, but I've been doing it long enough that I remember the time when it wasn't like that. So yeah.
Okay. Channing, let's go to you. What obstacles that you find as a filmmaker, or as a woman filmmaker, or as a Black woman filmmaker?
Yeah, I think obstacles for me were probably figuring out what the path was to getting my stories into the world. Like, I think I really grew up, I didn't grow up in a small town. It feels small town on film because like I was filming in a specific community that feels like a small country town in a way. But the city I grew up in is actually like the 13th largest city in the country. But the community just gave it, the community is so tight, everybody knows everybody in this particular community. But I really didn't grow up with an infrastructure for cinema. And, I've heard some of the stories here, and, my story is similar in a way that my access really was through a small community theater in my neighborhood called Sojourner Truth, coincidentally.
Oh, wow.
I know. So early on, I really got to see Black plays, which I now know were incredible for me to have seen at an early age, like Pearly and Colored Girls and things like that. And so I really loved story. And then what I saw was accessible was acting. And I dipped my toe in the water in acting early on. And what I was seeing was that I didn't see the same kind of like multi-layered complex stories that I saw in my head for Black women. And so I really decided to start writing my own stories. Like I had a love of literature, just like the Toni Morrisons and Alice Walkers. Dr. Maya Angelou. And I just really was like, these are the kind of stories I want to see on screen. They're so cinematic. So it was just really finding a way to reconcile, the love for really complex stories for Black people and especially Black women, and being able to stick with it to tell those stories because they're not stories often told.
And Sandrel, your obstacles as a filmmaker, as a Black woman filmmaker.
The biggest obstacle for me had to be just being confident in writing. I wasn't very confident in writing. I was a very visual girl when I started. I was the camera girl that took my camera everywhere I went and studied techniques and like loved the camera so much, but didn't really know how to construct content. So I really had and this was like post college. So even when, I could have took screenwriting classes, I was such a techie freak, but just being confident in writing, knowing that I have a story to tell, knowing that there's an audience out there waiting to see that story. I've gotten a little bit more courageous with writing down my thoughts, writing down what stories I feel like would speak to me and that will speak to Black people and speak to Black families specifically. But that's what Training Wheels allowed me to do. It allowed me to kind of have to be courageous, just to talk about something that has happened in my own life. And I got so many comments about people that had problematic relationships with their fathers, and I'm not the only one. So with Training Wheels and just finishing it, it proved that I can tell a story that is relatable to me, that can also be relatable to so many other people, and can help them in areas where I probably struggled. I was hoping that I was able to emulate that on film, and people can watch that film and take that away. That, the relationship with family is so important. And I was hoping that was something that I highlighted. So just being confident in being a writer and knowing that you have a story and there is a heart for it and someone's waiting to see it.
Christine, I almost hesitated to ask you this question about obstacles because it seems like you get to work a lot. Tell us.
Do I get to work a lot?
But you still, what obstacles are you encountering?
Okay. Let's see. I kind of had two shifts in my life. I actually made my first feature film over 20 years ago, and my goal solely was to be a filmmaker and to live primarily in that space. And then something happened along the way where I had 4 children, and that I assure you, none of them were planned. And while I would not call them obstacles, I would call them instead the greatest blessings in my life. I did not ask for.
That's just really funny very funny the way you said it, because I know, I see and I hear people who know you, what a great mom you are, and I know how much your family means to you. And so the way that you said it just sounded very funny.
Well,
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
They're very consuming. So I actually took 15 years off from directing to raise my children. I left Los Angeles, moved to Charlotte, North Carolina, and raised my kids there for a while. And I'm only actually coming back to work after that long hiatus. And I hit the ground running. But I wouldn't call that an obstacle. I would say the reality of it is that we're all women, and some of us may have kids, and kids don't ask to be here, and they require attention and time. And then I treat films like my children. They require attention and time. And the reality of it is sometimes you just can't do it all well at once. So I would say that is an obstacle, but I just think that's just old as time. It's something that women have always had to negotiate, in terms of womanhood. So that's probably been a big challenge on top of navigating the terrains of an industry that is kind of systematically opposed to women and Black people and all kinds of people of color and anybody different, even though on the surface it pretends to be liberal and inviting. The barriers to entry are incredibly hard. And that's why I'm so ecstatic to see so many women, coming to the forefront. Because 20 years ago when I started, I promise you, there was me and Gina Prince Bythewood. Gina just kept doing it with the kids. Gina never stopped, but I had 2 more kids than Gina. I could not.
Yeah.
But now look at the landscape, and it's a new day. It's a new day, and hopefully, seriously, that we could knock down the walls that make it harder for people to not only get in, but to rise quickly, like our white male counterparts.
So I see that there are some questions that I'm supposed to look at and ask you, but I have my own, I have my question that I wanted you all to think about. And this is an important question for me to ask each one of you. I'm going to start with Ashley, since we didn't get a chance to go over the obstacles, because I want to switch gears now. And I'm giving you a magic wand, all the money that you need to make any movie you want to make, and the support structure. What movie do you want to make, Ashley? And who do you want to make it with?
I feel like I am unprepared for this question, but I'm just going to pitch what I have.
And let me tell you, there may be somebody out there watching this or who may hear about it who want to help you make this dream come true. So do you want me to come back to you, or do you want to go, Ashley? Do you want to? Uh-oh. So Christina, you're moving. Some of you have moved.
Uh-oh. Yeah.
All right. And Ashley, I think, is frozen, right? Okay. We're going to go to Channing then.
I'm unprepared for this question too.
Did you say unprepared? Wait a minute. I'm going to give you a magic wand, all the money that you need to make a movie, and you can. Nicole?
Yeah, I'm unprepared. I think it's a movie that I'm still writing, so I'm unprepared. I think there's going to be some much better answers than the one I could give.
This is not what this shows me.
I'm going to hope.
We as women have to get our wish list up, and we
I'm ready.
start dreaming big, and we can't be afraid to put it out there. There are some things that you don't want to put out because they're secret, or you may not want, but that's not what I'm talking about. Even if, Numa, we're going to go to Numa first, and then we're going to come back to Channing and.
Yeah, you have time. You have time. So I want to make a Joker movie, but turn it on its head, have a Black woman play the Joker, Lupita, and have it be about, how a Black woman is just fed up.
Yeah.
I
And have
would like that movie.
big, big blockbuster.
Yeah. I could see that.
Oh, I see it.
Okay, great. All right. Christine.
Well, okay. So the many years off I was raising kids, I did have a lot of time to write scripts. So I have 3 scripts that can work together as a trilogy and is based on faith, hope, and love. The first one being a Black musical akin to La La Land. So it's the Black La La Land, but it serves as a love letter to our culture and our Black music. And it's just unapologetically Black with real singers. And it tells a story of artists that takes place in New York City. Another one is like a road film that's like Thelma and Louise meets Terms of Endearment, with the backdrop of Fargo, because it takes place in a snowstorm. Two black women who hate each other are forced to share a car ride from New York City to Washington, D.C. And the other one, I have a legal suspense thriller that's I always use other films, but I just make it black. So it's like the Black Michael Clayton. And it's about a very successful black male lawyer who marries a white wife, and when he gets nailed for a murder that he didn't commit, he has to seek the help of his ex-girlfriend, who is a black woman, to rescue him from the scenario that he's in. And she's a Black Lives Matter activist who looks at him like, you're a total sellout. Yet, as we black women do, she has to rescue him, but there's something that she gets out of it for herself. So those are the three that work as a trilogy. And then I have my Black Korea feature film that's usually autobiographical, and it's like Cinema Paradisia meets The 400 Blows.
Oh my God, you're killing me here. All this stuff is so great. I hope that you have to make your movies.
Give me the check. I'm a filmmaker. I can get it done.
I'm going to find that magic wand. I'm going to give you a real magic wand. Sandrel Nicole, did we get you yet?
No, you didn't. I have an idea. I'm actually writing a pilot about a woman who is hired by women to sniff out their cheating husbands. So I'm working on that, and I thought it would be really awesome to do like a Meteor Man, but a filmmaker, a woman version of Meteor Man. And I would love to work with Regina King.
Oh yeah, she's good.
She's awesome. Loved her in Watchmen.
That would be great. Ashley, for some reason your Wi-Fi froze. And are you sitting on your new sofa now? We can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, my new sofa was part of the problem, but that's okay.
Okay.
Technology punches.
You gotta see the sofa.
I mean, it's really nice, so I'll allow it. But
what color is it?
It's great. It's great, but it has a Chase ottoman on it now, so we can. Yeah.
Chase.
Yes. But so the question is, magic wands, any film I can make. Yes. I wish I gave this more thought, because I do hope to one day get back into narrative filmmaking, because that's kind of where I started as a filmmaker. But my immediate follow-up hope, I'm actually hoping to make a film about my family patriarch, my grandfather that comes from Mobile, Alabama, has had 17 children. My mother is one of 17. And he recently passed away in November. And so I kind of want to make a document about what happens to family ties after, to Black family ties when a major family member departs.
Yes.
Mobile, Tuskegee, Alabama, almost all of his children went to college and started professional careers throughout the Great Migration. And so I'm hoping to make a family document, collecting the stories of the moments in which my aunts and uncles can say that he changed their lives, and turn that into a web series, an archive, and sort of a guide for other Black families to document their stories and submit them. Because I think that is a huge thing we're lacking in the media landscape. It's just like documentation of the stories of Black families. So.
I would love to see that. Last Saturday, August 1st, I spent with a woman for her 101st birthday. She was born August 1st, 1919.
Oh my goodness.
She raised 7 children. I think the 8th died. when she was young, she outlived her first husband, but remarried, lived through the Depression. She was telling me so many things about her life. And her name is Catherine Stovall. She's just amazing. And the thing that really got me, she still had this sparkle in her eye and the joy of life and all these things. She, you know, she so much so it made me write this article called Going to My Happy Place, to hear about some things that she was telling me about life. Just so I would love to see your story. So I think we have Channing, and then oh my God, I hope we can go over 1 minute because we have to hear from Channing. And I didn't get to any of the questions on the side, but I'm going to ask Rebecca if people can write their questions. If you give them to the filmmakers, maybe Rebecca can put them in your answers in an article afterwards, because this all went too fast, just too fast. But Channing.
Mine is going to be super quick. So since I was unprepared or unwilling for the question, I'm going to wave my wand and your wand and greenlight all of these films. I want to see them.
That is
good, ladies.
That's just such a sister thing to do.
Awesome. Thank you.
So awesome. You know, I just have to tell all of you, thank you so much. This was so much fun. I was looking forward to it, and now my heart is overflowing. I feel so full, so grateful to all of you. And thank you, Channing, and thank you, Ashley. Thank you, Numa, Christine, and Nicole. And thank you, Rebecca Martin. And congratulations on your inaugural Cinema Femme La Femme Film Festival. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.